you don't get lost in that program with your bike.
Yeah.
That bike is dope. Like I got to ride Dunge's championship bike, and I was doing stuff on that bike in 3 laps that I probably couldn't have done when I was racing full time because the bike was so good. And part of that.
And so what is that? All right. So explain that.
So like it's Ryan Morris and like the group they work with and the time, like the whole package, like they start with a stock bike, which they do, that team does. Ryan works with the R&D group that I used to work for. So Ryan would go and ride with me and be like, oh, okay, like shit, we're going down the wrong road. Get back, bring it back in. We're like, the company works so close to the factory and the production stuff. So Roger, because he has some serious weight he can pull, would go to Austria and be like, you need to make the bike lighter. The bike needs to be lighter. It needs to be 5 pounds lighter. And they would just find 5 pounds to take off of it. And like, so Ryan would come ride with us, then go ride Supercross, and then they go ride with us and come ride with Supercross. And Ryan would like look at the bike, and then I'd be like, hey Ryan, can you help me with our bike? Like, how can our bike be better with yours? And like we'd work back hand in hand in the US, and then there'd be a person delivering that message to Austria, usually Roger, who's on the board of directors. So like no one's gonna say no. But like outdoors, Dunge's bike was terrible.
Really?
Like, yeah, because Ryan would spend so much time on the Supercross track. I rode Dunge's bike the year that he got beat by Tomac by like a minute at Hangtown. And I was like so excited because I'm more of an outdoor guy. Like I don't spend a lot of time on the Supercross track. And I'm like, could not wait. I'm like, dude, I'm going to learn from this bike. It's going to do things that I don't know that our bike can do because it's just a factory KTM. It's Red Bull KTM. And I'll still geek out. Like, dude, I'm getting on a Red Bull KTM. Like this thing is insane. Titanium, everything. And I rode 3 laps and I'm like, come in and I go tell Jim, this is engineer. He's looking at me, he's like, Sleater, how is it? Because I just stroked him off for 3 days how good the Supercross bike was. We had this 2-week-long test me and Morris had to do. I finished Supercross and I was just like, you guys are legends. This bike is amazing. I see why Dunge just smoked everyone. Cannot believe how easy that bike is to ride.
So is that what it is? It's just like I'd be interested to know as like a person that I couldn't tell you shit from clay when it comes to a bike.
Take a stock KTM in that 2006, was it 16? 15 that he won? Whatever. The last year he won the title.
16, I think.
16,
right?
Yeah. So I rode his last Supercross series that he won, his bike, and I rode it, and I was like super intimidated to ride it. I was like, dude, this is gonna be way too much power for me. It's going to be too stiff for me because I'm not fast enough. How am I going to get through these obstacles? I got to spend 3 days, 3 different tracks on this certain test we were working on. I'm like, we were working on transmissions. And I'm like, dude, I got to make sure that I'm up to snuff. Pretty intimidating. I got, Frankie and Carlos and like Jim, the tech guy. And I'm just the production dude that rides outdoors like a squirrel. So I get on it and I airmail the triple like 3 laps in a row. And then I started putting lines together and just the how light it felt and the smooth power. But dude, the clamp offset was the same as stock. Like legitimately, it felt like a stock motorcycle sitting out on the ground, which was so like gratifying to our group. Like it wasn't like the races weren't kicked out 2 degrees and it wasn't brought in. Like, so I knew as a company we were going down the right track, right? Like, and then the power was super light and free. Like the bike was extremely light on weight on the scale, but it also felt it in the air because the power was quick because they got their ECU so dialed in. And then the connectivity from the throttle, like when I touch it, it'd move, but it wasn't like a light switch. Like they had the thing so refined because Dunge and Morris and the group spent so much time like refining it. They didn't go like 90, like 10 degrees this way, 10 degrees this way, and 20 degrees. They went like
they were just chasing 1%.
1%, man. They were and then you look at Ryan. Ryan personally was probably only chasing 1%. So you look at the success of that group in that series. They went down to the final hour, the final race to win that series that year, I believe.
Yeah.
And they had 2 weeks to get ready for the outdoors. Right? And they were like, okay, this is pretty good. Let's go racing.
And we all know what teams want to win.
They want to win Supercross, right? So like and I've been riding outdoor only, right? Just outdoor only, setting up these bikes for you to buy, for me to buy, for our dads to buy, our brothers to buy. And I'm like, dude, I'm pretty confident in our outdoor like setup for production. Like I would put it up against anything when I was like, this is my gym. And so I'm like, dude, I cannot wait to ride this thing outdoors. Like it's going to be a treat. I did 2 laps and I'm like, this thing's a pile of shit.
Really?
Yeah.
They hadn't smoothed those 1%ers.
They have not. They had the big 52 millimeter forks like Supercross that They had stiffer settings. And I'm like, they've been in Glen Helen's a more hard packed track, and maybe they're testing in Florida on some dirty, heavy loam. But like this was already after the season been started, and I'm like, man, this thing is like not good. Like it's got a ton of power, but I'm like, let me give it a fair shake. Maybe I'm just not fast enough, so I'm gonna ride the shit out of it, and maybe I'll get it to move more, and it'll work better. And then I can be like, yep, like it's me, and not I'm not.
Yeah.
And nah, dude, I was riding it harder, and it was like, oh my god, this thing's sketchy. Like, can't even believe how sketchy this bike is, and like that's why he got his ass kicked by Tomac. You know, Tomac might have gave up on the Supercross series a little earlier and worked on his outdoor setup and had it handled.
Yeah.
And Dunge didn't, and got caught off the back. Well, what was cool though to that team,
they turned it around.
Morris goes to the team, and I couldn't imagine being that guy. He said, "Hey guys, like, our production bike
is better than this
as a package. Like, yeah, this might do this better, and this might do this better, and like it's clearly got not as much dampening, but as a package, their bike's better. Like the production bike's better, and we need to go more that direction." And that is gnarly to tell RD and Ian Harrison, like, hey, we're not the best right now. Like this other group in this company's better than us in this segment. But dude, they took it to the chin.
And so did they basically then go back to like more of a stock bike and then redo the process?
No, so what they did was, from my understanding, is Ryan took my setup on a bike, took it to the track, worked on that bike, hopped on ours. Because the biggest thing they have to do from like a racing standpoint is those guys haul ass. The bumps are bigger than like a hobby rider's track. So they got to make sure it doesn't move too much and like endo them and
that's
swap
why they
out.
set
That's
them
why
up
it's so stiffer, so that chassis doesn't move around on them. They can get on. When you can get on the gas harder or produce more power, the chassis is going to move more. There's going to be, when the shot goes down, it has to come back out at some point. So the compromise is to get that thing not to move as much, but still have traction and comfort.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you get that shock super stiff, then it's not going to track coming out of ruts. Where our production bike is quite a bit softer, but dude, it was tracking and you could turn. Where Ryan's bike was so stiff, I couldn't turn unless I hit a rut or like a berm.
Yeah.
I couldn't go through like a flat turn because it just drift out.
It just starts like understeering and
yeah,
losing the
so
front.
On a factory bike, especially KTM, you have a 52 millimeter fork.
I thought they went away from them.
No, they're aluminum 52 millimeters. So like two factory forks weigh as much as one 48 millimeter fork because they're so light.
Really?
Which is insane, right? So like,
fuck.
Yeah, but the problem is the diameter makes it more rigid.
They're stiff, yeah.
They're stiff. So like, and then they have a bigger axle, which is an axle produces more rigidity. So they have to find ways to
make it
flex. So like a steering stem, maybe steering stem or forks, but I think they went to smaller axles. And then a skid plate makes a huge difference too. So like if you take a frame rail.
Oh, because it's like bolting. It's like reinforcing the frame.
That's exactly right.
Fuck.
So like back in the day, you'd run like an aluminum skid plate. You're basically welding your frame.
You're just like bolting your frame up.
Bolting your frame up. Like you might as well have a straight plate. Where like that's why everyone has plastic or carbon nowadays, because you allow your those two frame rails to flex. So like it goes so deep. Like even like a crossbar. I love the way like a twin wall looks.
Yeah, but it's too stiff.
So you cut it in half.
Yep.
You cut the bar in half and like tape it up. So like that was just because I was being an aesthetic dork when I ran twin Renthals. Now I just run a pro taper and I just run a flat
lot
bar.
of people went away from the twin walls because they were saying that they were too stiff.
Yeah, so like and then head stays from like the frame to the motor. A steel head stay gives you more feedback on like what the chassis is doing. Like, okay, I'm sliding out. Okay, I know it because it's got some movement.
You're starting to feel it before it happens.
Yeah, before it happens. And then like you start running like carbon fiber ones and you're like, you have a more of a rigid setup, and they're running carbon head stays on Ryan's bike. And like then aluminum has a different feel. So like that's where Reedy is so good, like with chassis. Like he'll set his bike up more chassis related than like shim related or dampening. He'll run offsets and like clamps, like full chassis, like race car shit. And that's where that bike was off. That Dunge bike was like super rigid, so they got it to free up with what I don't know what the changes they made, but it turned around. He started winning motos again, and you know he did what he does and won. But like it's crazy how a group of people like that are the best in the world can go down a road
That's just not the right road.
It's not the right road because you need to have a reference.